Hey there. So let me ask you something. Have you ever looked at your bank account at the end of the month and thought, where did all my money go? Like seriously, where did it go? You got paid, you bought some things, maybe you went out a few times, and suddenly there's almost nothing left. Has that ever happened to you? Yeah, me too. And you know what? It happens to almost everyone I know. Welcome to English Club Podcast. I'm Emily, and I'm so happy you're here with me today. This is a space where we learn English together in a natural, relaxed way, just like we're having a conversation over coffee. And speaking of coffee, actually, that's kind of related to what we're going to talk about today. But let me tell you about my morning first. So this morning, I was walking to work, right? And I passed by my favorite coffee shop. You know the one. The place where they know your name, they know your order, and the coffee just tastes amazing. I mean, really amazing. And I was so tempted to go in. I could almost taste that cappuccino. But then I stopped myself. I actually stood outside for a moment, just thinking. Because yesterday, I sat down and looked at how much money I spent last month. And, well, let me just say, it was a wake-up call. A big wake-up call. I realized that I was spending almost $100 a month just on coffee. Just on coffee. Can you believe that? That's like, what, 25 coffees? Maybe 30? And I'm not even talking about the pastries I sometimes get with the coffee. That's extra money right there. So I made myself a coffee at home this morning. It wasn't as fancy, sure, but you know what? It was good enough. And I saved $5. $5 might not sound like much, but if I do that every day, that's $150 a month. That's real money, you know? And that's exactly what we're going to talk about today, saving money. Now, I know what you might be thinking. Emily, saving money? That's boring. That's not fun. But here's the thing. Saving money isn't just about not spending. It's about having choices. It's about having freedom. It's about feeling secure and not stressed every time you look at your bank account. And honestly, learning to talk about money, learning to use English to discuss your finances, that's an incredibly important skill. Whether you're talking to your family, your friends, your bank, or even yourself, you need this language. So today, we're going to explore everything about saving money. How to talk about it, how to think about it, what phrases you need, what words are important, and most importantly, how to actually do it. Because let me tell you, I've made so many mistakes with money, so many, and I've learned a lot from those mistakes, and I want to share all of that with you today.
By the end of this episode, you're going to know how to talk about your savings goals, how to describe your spending habits, how to discuss budgets, and how to use all the important vocabulary related to money and saving. Plus, I'm going to share some really practical tips that have actually worked for me. Real tips, not just theory. And hey, before we dive in, if you're enjoying this podcast, please like and subscribe to our channel for more English learning podcasts. It really helps us create more content for you. Your support means everything to us, truly. Okay, so let's start with the basics. What does it actually mean to save money? Well, in simple terms, saving money means keeping some of your money instead of spending it all. You put it aside, you store it, you keep it for later. We say put money aside or set money aside. These are really common phrases. For example, I might say, I'm trying to put some money aside every month, or I set aside $50 from my paycheck for savings. Now, why do people save money? Well, there are lots of reasons, right? Some people save for emergencies. Unexpected things that happen. Your car breaks down, you need to go to the doctor, something in your house stops working. These things cost money, and if you don't have savings, it can be really stressful. Really, really stressful. Other people save for big purchases. Maybe you want to buy a car. Maybe you want to buy a house. Maybe you want to buy a new computer or a new phone. These things are expensive, so you need to save up for them. We say save up for something, like I'm saving up for a new laptop, or I'm saving up for a vacation. And speaking of vacations, that's another reason people save. Travel. I mean, who doesn't want to travel, right? But traveling costs money. Flights, hotels, food, activities, everything adds up. So if you want to take a nice trip, you probably need to save for it. I remember a few years ago, I really wanted to go to Japan. I had dreamed about it for years, but I knew it would be expensive, so I started saving. Every month, I put a little bit of money into a special account, and I called it my Japan Fund. It took me almost a year, but I did it. I saved enough money and I went to Japan, and it was amazing. And you know what felt even better than the trip itself? Knowing that I had paid for it with my own savings. I didn't go into debt, I didn't borrow money, I had saved for it, and that felt incredible. Other people save for retirement. Retirement is when you stop working, usually because you're older. And when you retire, you need money to live on because you're not earning a salary anymore. So it's smart to save money throughout your working life so that you have enough when you retire. we talk about saving for retirement or planning for retirement. And some people just save because it makes them feel secure. Having money in the bank gives you peace of mind. You know that if something bad happens, you have a cushion. You have something to fall back on. That's a nice feeling, you know? It helps you sleep better at night. So those are some reasons why people save. But here's the thing. Even though most people know they should save money, a lot of people find it really difficult. Really difficult. Why? Well, there are lots of reasons. Let me tell you about some of the challenges. First of all, there's temptation. We live in a world full of things to buy. Everywhere you look, there's an advertisement telling you to buy something. Buy this phone, buy these shoes, buy this food, go to this restaurant. It's constant, you know? And with online shopping, it's so easy to buy things. You just click a button and boom, you've spent money. You don't even see the money leaving your hand. It just disappears from your account. I'll be honest with you, I struggle with this. I really do. Sometimes I'm scrolling through my phone, just looking at social media, and I see an ad for something. And I think, oh, that's nice. Maybe I need that. And before I know it, I've bought it. And then a few days later, the package arrives and I think, why did I buy this? I don't even really want this. But it's too late. The money is gone. Another challenge is that saving money requires patience. You don't see results immediately. If you save $10 today, you still only have $10. That doesn't feel like much. But if you save $10 every week for a year, you have $520. That's significant, but it takes time to get there. And in our modern world, we're not very good at being patient, are we? We want things now. Instant gratification, that's what they call it. And then there's the issue of expenses. Some people say, Emily, I would love to save money, but I can't. I don't have any extra money. All my money goes to rent, food, bills. I understand that. I really do. For some people, money is very tight. But you know what I've learned? Even if you can only save a tiny amount, it's worth it. Even if it's just $5 a month. Because saving money is also a habit. It's a practice. And when you practice something, you get better at it. So even saving a small amount helps you develop the habit of saving. Okay, so let's talk about some vocabulary. When we talk about money, there are some really important words you need to know. Let's start with income. Income is the money you receive. It's the money coming in. Usually, this is your salary or your wages from your job. If you have a job, you earn income. We might say, my monthly income is $2,000, or I need to increase my income.
Then there's expenses. Expenses are the things you spend money on, the money going out. Your rent is an expense. Your food is an expense. Your phone bill is an expense. All the things you pay for are your expenses. We might say, my monthly expenses are about $1,500, or I need to reduce my expenses. Now, if your income is more than your expenses, that's good. That means you have money left over, and hopefully you can save that money. But if your expenses are more than your income, that's a problem. That means you're spending more than you earn, and that's not sustainable. You can't keep doing that for a long time. Another important word is budget. A budget is a plan for your money. It's when you decide in advance how much you're going to spend on different things. For example, you might decide, okay, I'm going to spend $500 on rent, $300 on food, $100 on entertainment, and I'm going to save $200. That's a budget. It's a plan. And having a budget is really, really helpful for saving money. We say make a budget or stick to a budget. Like, I made a budget for this month, or I'm trying to stick to my budget. Then we have savings. Savings is the money you don't spend, the money you keep. If you earn $2,000 and spend $1,500, you have $500 in savings. We talk about building savings or growing your savings. Like, I'm trying to build my savings, or my savings are growing slowly but surely. There's also the word account. When we talk about money, an account is a place at a bank where you keep your money. Most people have a checking account, which is for everyday spending, and a savings account, which is specifically for money you want to save. The savings account usually earns interest, which means the bank pays you a small amount of money for keeping your money there. We might say, I opened a savings account last year, or I transferred money to my savings account. Let me tell you about when I opened my first savings account. I was in my early 20s, and honestly, I didn't really understand how money worked. I just spent whatever I earned. But then a friend told me, Emily, you need to save something, even if it's just a little bit. So I went to the bank, and I felt so adult, you know? I sat down with a bank employee, and I said, I want to open a savings account, and they helped me set it up. It was actually really easy. And that day, I put $50 into that account. Just $50. It wasn't much, but it was a start. And you know what? That simple action changed my relationship with money, because suddenly I had a place specifically for savings. It was separate from my spending money, and that made a huge difference.
Another important word is debt. Debt is money that you owe to someone else. If you borrow money, you have debt. Credit cards can create debt if you don't pay them off. Loans are debt. And debt is the opposite of savings, really. When you have debt, you're paying interest, which means you're losing money. When you have savings, you're earning interest, which means you're gaining money. So it's much better to have savings than debt. We say be in debt or get out of debt, like I'm trying to get out of debt, or I don't want to be in debt anymore. Okay, so now that we know some basic vocabulary, let's talk about how to actually save money. What are some practical strategies? What actually works? The first and most important strategy is to pay yourself first. What does this mean? It means that when you get your income, before you spend any of it, you put some money into savings. You pay yourself. A lot of people do the opposite. They spend money all month, and then at the end of the month, they save whatever is left over. But here's the problem with that approach. Usually, there's nothing left over. The money disappears. But if you save first before you spend anything, then you guarantee that you're saving something. So here's how it works. Let's say you get paid on the first of the month. On that same day, you transfer money to your savings account. Maybe it's 10% of your income. Maybe it's 20%. Maybe it's just a fixed amount like $100. Whatever works for you. But you do it immediately. And then you live on the rest of the money. This is such a powerful strategy because saving becomes automatic. You don't have to think about it. You don't have to make a decision at the end of the month. It just happens. I started doing this about 3 years ago, and it completely changed my financial situation. I set up an automatic transfer with my bank. Every time I get paid, $50 automatically goes to my savings account. I don't see it, I don't touch it, it just happens. And honestly, I don't even miss that $50. I adjusted my spending to live without it. And now, 3 years later, I have a really nice emergency fund. If something unexpected happens, I'm covered. And that feels so good. The second strategy is to track your spending. This means keeping a record of everything you spend money on. Everything. And I mean everything. That coffee in the morning, that snack in the afternoon, that app you downloaded, that subscription you forgot about, all of it. Because here's the thing. Most people don't actually know where their money goes. They have a general idea, sure. They know they spend money on food and rent and stuff, but the details, they're fuzzy. When you track your spending, you see the truth. You see patterns. You see where your money is really going. And often, you get surprised. I know I was surprised when I first did this. I thought I was pretty careful with money. But when I tracked my spending for a month, I discovered that I was spending way more on eating out than I thought. Way more. I was spending like $400 a month on restaurants and takeout. I couldn't believe it. That's a lot of money. So how do you track your spending? Well, there are lots of ways. Some people use apps on their phone. There are many apps designed for this. You just enter each purchase and the app keeps track for you. Other people use a notebook. Every time they buy something, they write it down. Some people use a spreadsheet on their computer. The method doesn't matter. What matters is that you do it consistently. Every single purchase, you record it. Now, I'm not going to lie to you, tracking your spending takes effort. It takes discipline, especially at first. It's annoying to stop and write down every little thing you buy. But after a few weeks, it becomes a habit. It becomes automatic. And the insight you gain is so valuable, so valuable. The third strategy is to set specific savings goals. Instead of just saying, I want to save money, you say, I want to save $1,000 for an emergency fund. Or I want to save $3,000 for a vacation to Spain. Or I want to save $5,000 for a new car. When you have a specific goal, a specific number, it's much easier to stay motivated.
You can track your progress. You can see yourself getting closer to the goal, and that feels good. That keeps you going. I remember when I wanted to save for a new laptop. My old laptop was dying. It was so slow, it kept crashing. I needed a new one. But a good laptop costs a lot of money, about $1,200 for the one I wanted. So I set that as my goal, $1,200, and I made a plan. I decided to save $300 a month for 4 months. That felt achievable. That felt doable. And every month, when I put that $300 aside, I felt proud. I was making progress. I was getting closer. And after 4 months, I had the money. I went to the store and I bought the laptop, and I didn't feel guilty at all. I had saved for it. I had planned for it. It felt great. Another strategy is to reduce unnecessary expenses. Now, this doesn't mean you have to live like a monk. It doesn't mean you can never buy anything fun, but it does mean being thoughtful about what you spend money on. It means asking yourself, do I really need this? Will this make my life better? Or am I just buying it because I'm bored or because I saw an ad?
Let me give you some examples of unnecessary expenses that many people have. Subscriptions. Oh my goodness, subscriptions. Streaming services, music services, app subscriptions, magazine subscriptions, gym memberships you don't use. These things add up. They're usually not very expensive individually, maybe $10 here, $15 there, but when you add them all up, it can be $100 a month or more. And the tricky thing about subscriptions is that they're automatic. The money leaves your account every month without you really noticing. So my advice, go through all your subscriptions, make a list, and ask yourself, am I actually using this? Do I really need this? If the answer is no, cancel it. You can always subscribe again later if you miss it. I did this exercise last year, and I was shocked. I was paying for 3 different streaming services. 3! And honestly, I was only regularly using one of them. The other 2, I watched something on them maybe once every 2 months. So I canceled them. And right there, I saved $25 a month. That's $300 a year, just from canceling 2 subscriptions I barely used. Another unnecessary expense is buying things on impulse. Impulse buying is when you buy something without planning to, without thinking about it carefully. You see it, you want it, you buy it, right there, in the moment. This happens a lot in stores, especially at the checkout counter. They put all those little items there, candy and magazines and gadgets, and you just grab them without thinking. But it also happens online. You're browsing, you see something, you click buy. Super easy, super dangerous for your wallet. So here's a rule that helps with impulse buying. It's called the 24-hour rule. When you want to buy something that you didn't plan to buy, you wait 24 hours. You don't buy it immediately. You give yourself a day to think about it. And you know what happens? A lot of the time, after 24 hours, you don't want it anymore. The desire passes. You realize you don't actually need it, and you've saved money. If after 24 hours you still really want it, okay, maybe buy it. But at least you've thought about it. At least it's not a pure impulse. I use this rule all the time now, and it has saved me so much money. So much. Because that initial excitement, that initial, oh, I want that feeling, it fades. It really does. And then you're glad you didn't spend the money. Let's talk about food for a minute, because food is a big expense for most people. We all need to eat, obviously, but there's a big difference between how much you can spend on food depending on your choices. Eating out at restaurants is expensive, very expensive. Even fast food adds up quickly. But cooking at home is much, much cheaper. Much cheaper.
Now, I understand that not everyone loves cooking. I get it. And sometimes you're tired and cooking feels like too much work. But here's the thing. You don't have to cook fancy meals. You don't have to be a chef. Simple meals are fine. Rice and vegetables, pasta with sauce, a sandwich. These things are cheap and easy to make. And if you cook a big batch of something, you can eat it for several days. That's called meal prep. You prepare meals in advance, usually on the weekend, and then you have food ready for the whole week. It saves time and money. I started doing meal prep about a year ago, and it's been amazing. On Sunday, I spend maybe 2 hours cooking. I make a big pot of soup or a big pan of chicken and vegetables or something like that. I divide it into containers, and then I have lunch for the whole week. Easy, convenient, cheap, and healthy too, usually. Before I started doing this, I was buying lunch at work almost every day. That was costing me about $10 per day. That's $50 a week.
$200 a month. Now I spend maybe $30 on groceries for my lunches for the whole month. The savings are huge. Another way to save money on food is to make your own coffee and drinks. I mentioned this at the beginning. Coffee shops are expensive, really expensive. If you buy coffee every day, it adds up so fast. But making coffee at home costs almost nothing. A big container of coffee might cost $10 and last you a month. Compare that to buying coffee out every day for $5. That's $150 a month versus $10 a month. That's a huge difference. You could save over $1,000 a year just by making your own coffee. And it's not just coffee. Any drinks from cafes or stores are much more expensive than making them at home. Smoothies, tea, juice, all of it. If you want to save money, make your drinks at home. Now, let's talk about bigger expenses, things like housing and transportation. These are usually the biggest expenses in most people's budgets, and they're harder to change because you can't just stop paying rent or stop having a car, right? You need a place to live, you need a way to get to work. But there are still ways to save money in these areas if you're thoughtful about it. With housing, the key question is, are you paying for more than you need? Some people rent apartments that are bigger than necessary or in more expensive neighborhoods than necessary because they want something nice. And I understand that. Everyone wants a nice place to live. But if saving money is a priority, you might need to make some compromises. Maybe you could live in a smaller apartment. Maybe you could live in a less trendy neighborhood where rent is cheaper. Maybe you could get a roommate and split the rent. These decisions can save you hundreds of dollars every month.
I lived with roommates for years, even when I could have afforded to live alone. And you know what? It was fine. Actually, it was more than fine. It was fun. I had company, I had people to talk to, and I saved a lot of money on rent. That money went into my savings instead of into a bigger apartment that I would have been in alone. With transportation, there are also choices. If you live in a city with good public transportation, do you really need a car? Cars are expensive. Not just the cost of buying the car, but also insurance, gas, maintenance, parking. It all adds up. Public transportation is much cheaper. Buses, trains, subways. Even if you have to take them for an hour each way to work, you're still saving a lot of money compared to having a car. And if you do need a car, you don't need a new expensive car. Used cars work just fine. I've always bought used cars, and they've served me well. Sure, sometimes they need repairs, but even with repairs, a used car is usually cheaper than the payments on a new car. Another option is to walk or bike when possible. If you live close enough to work or to the places you need to go regularly, walking or biking is free, zero cost. Plus, it's good for your health. It's exercise. So you're saving money and getting healthier at the same time. That's a win-win, right? Okay, let's talk about one of the trickiest parts of saving money, dealing with social pressure. What do I mean by this? Well, we live in a social world. We have friends, family, colleagues, and often these people want to do things that cost money. They want to go to restaurants, they want to go to bars, they want to go shopping, they want to go on trips. And if you're trying to save money, this can be really difficult. Because here's the thing, you don't want to miss out. You don't want to be left out. You want to spend time with your friends. You want to be part of the group. But every time you go out, you spend money. Maybe it's $20 here, $50 there, and it adds up fast. So what do? Well, first of all, it's okay to say no sometimes. It really is. You don't have to say yes to every invitation. If your friends are going to an expensive restaurant and you're trying to save money, you can say, you know what, I'm going to skip this one. I'm watching my budget right now. Real friends will understand. They won't judge you for it. But you also don't want to always say no. You don't want to become isolated. So here's a strategy. Suggest cheaper alternatives. Instead of going to an expensive restaurant, suggest having a potluck dinner at someone's home. Everyone brings a dish and you all eat together. It's social, it's fun, and it's much cheaper. Instead of going to the movies, suggest watching a movie at home. Instead of going to a bar, suggest having drinks at someone's apartment. There are lots of ways to be social without spending a lot of money. You just have to be creative and willing to suggest these alternatives. And you know what I've found? Often, other people are actually relieved when you suggest cheaper options because they're probably trying to save money too. They probably feel the same pressure, but no one wants to be the first one to say, hey, can we do something cheaper? So when you say it, you're actually doing everyone a favor. I remember a few years ago, my friends and I used to go out to brunch every Sunday. Brunch is popular, right? Especially in cities. But brunch at a restaurant is expensive. We were each spending like $25 or $30 every week. That's over $100 a month. And one day I said to my friends, guys, I love our brunches, but I'm trying to save money. What if we do brunch at home instead? We could take turns hosting. And they all said yes immediately. They were all thinking the same thing. So we started doing home brunches. One person would host and everyone else would bring something. Coffee, juice, eggs, bread, fruit, whatever. And it was just as fun, maybe even more fun because we were in a relaxed environment and we could talk as long as we wanted without feeling rushed by the restaurant. And we saved so much money, so much. Now, let's talk about something that's really important, but that people don't always think about, the emotional side of money. Because money isn't just practical. It's not just numbers and budgets. It's also emotional. We have feelings about money, strong feelings. Some people feel anxious about money. They worry about not having enough. They stress about bills. They can't sleep at night because they're thinking about their finances. Other people feel guilty about money. They feel guilty when they spend it. They feel guilty when they save it if other people need help. Some people feel ashamed about money. Maybe they're in debt, or maybe they don't earn as much as they think they should and they feel embarrassed about it. And all of these feelings are normal. They're completely normal. Money is stressful. It's a big part of life. It affects so many things. Where you live, what you eat, what you can do. Of course it's emotional.
But here's what I want to say. Your worth as a person is not determined by how much money you have. It's not. You are valuable regardless of your bank account. Rich people are not better than poor people. People with a lot of savings are not better than people with no savings. Money is just a tool. It's just a resource. It doesn't define you. And if you're in a difficult financial situation right now, please don't beat yourself up about it. Please don't feel ashamed. A lot of people are in difficult financial situations. A lot of people struggle with money. You're not alone. And the fact that you're here, listening to this, learning about how to save money, that shows that you're taking steps to improve. That's something to be proud of. I want to tell you something personal. A few years ago, I had a lot of credit card debt. A lot. I had made some bad decisions. I had spent money I didn't have, and I felt so ashamed. I didn't want anyone to know. I felt like a failure. But eventually, I realized that the shame wasn't helping me. It was just making me feel worse. So I decided to face the problem. I made a plan to pay off the debt. It took me 2 years, 2 long years. But I did it. I paid it off. And the process taught me so much. It taught me about discipline. It taught me about patience. It taught me about the importance of making a plan and sticking to it. And you know what? Going through that experience made me better with money. Before that, I didn't really pay attention to my finances. I just spent money and hoped everything would work out. But after going through the struggle of paying off debt, I became much more careful, much more intentional. I started tracking my spending, I started budgeting, I started saving. And now I'm in a much better place financially. And I'm proud of that. Not because I have a lot of money, but because I learned how to manage money. That's the skill. That's what matters. So if you're struggling with money right now, please know that it can get better. It really can. You can change your financial situation. It takes time, yes. It takes effort, yes. But it's possible. Small steps, consistent steps, they add up. They really do. Let's talk about some specific phrases and expressions we use when talking about saving money. Because if you want to discuss this topic in English, you need to know how people actually talk about it. One common expression is tighten your belt. This means to spend less money, to be more careful with money. For example, I might say, I need to tighten my belt this month because I spent too much last month. Or, we're all tightening our belts because the economy is difficult right now. Another expression is live within your means. This means to spend only as much as you earn, not more. It means not going into debt, not spending money you don't have. For example, it's important to live within your means. Or, he's always lived within his means, so he never has financial problems.
We also say make ends meet. This means to have enough money to pay for the things you need, like rent and food. It's often used when money is tight. For example, it's hard to make ends meet on a low salary. Or, I'm working 2 jobs just to make ends meet. Another phrase is cut back on something. This means to reduce how much you spend on something. For example, I'm cutting back on eating out. Or, we need to cut back on entertainment expenses. We also say stretch your money or make your money stretch. This means to make your money last longer, to use it carefully so it covers everything you need. For example, I'm trying to stretch my money until the end of the month. Or, she's really good at making her money stretch. There's also pinch pennies or penny pinching. This means to be very careful with money, to try to save even small amounts. For example, I'm pinching pennies right now because I'm saving for a trip. Or, he's known for being a penny pincher. And we talk about rainy day savings or saving for a rainy day. A rainy day is a metaphor for a difficult time, a time when you need money. So rainy day savings are savings for emergencies, for unexpected problems. For example, it's smart to have some rainy day savings. Or, I'm glad I saved for a rainy day because my car just broke down. When someone is spending money freely, we might say they're spending money like water, or money burns a hole in their pocket. These expressions mean that the person can't keep money. They spend it very quickly. For example, he spends money like water, or money burns a hole in her pocket. She can't save anything. On the other hand, if someone is very good at saving, we might say they're thrifty or frugal. These words mean careful with money, not wasteful. They're usually positive words. For example, she's very thrifty. She always finds good deals. Or, living frugally has helped him save a lot of money. We also use the phrase shop around. This means to compare prices at different stores before buying something. For example, I always shop around before making a big purchase. Or, you should shop around to find the best price. And there's get your money's worth, which means to get good value for what you paid. For example, I really got my money's worth from that jacket. I've worn it for 5 years. Or, we didn't get our money's worth from that hotel. It was overpriced. Another useful phrase is splash out or splurge. These mean to spend a lot of money on something, usually as a treat. For example, I decided to splash out and buy a nice meal. Or, I splurged on a new pair of shoes.
Let me tell you about a situation where I used some of this language. Last year, I was talking to a friend who was having financial problems. She was stressed about money. So I said to her, listen, I know things are tight right now, but you need to make a plan. First, track your spending so you know where your money is going. Then, see where you can cut back. Maybe you need to tighten your belt for a few months. Stop eating out so much, cancel some subscriptions, shop around for better prices on the things you need, and start putting even a little bit aside for savings. Even $10 a week helps. You need some rainy day savings in case something unexpected happens. And you know what? She listened. She made a budget. She cut back on unnecessary expenses. She started saving a small amount every month. And a few months later, she told me she was feeling so much better about money. She said, Emily, thank you for the advice. I'm finally living within my means, and it feels good. I'm not stressed about money all the time anymore. That conversation felt good. It felt good to help someone. And it reminded me of how important it is to talk about money. Not just to think about it privately, but to actually discuss it with people you trust. Because when you talk about money, you learn from each other. You share strategies, you support each other. Okay, so we've talked about a lot of things today. We've talked about why saving money is important. We've talked about the challenges of saving money. We've talked about strategies like paying yourself first, tracking your spending, setting goals, reducing unnecessary expenses. We've talked about specific areas where you can save money, like food and housing and transportation. We've talked about dealing with social pressure. We've talked about the emotional side of money. And we've talked about useful phrases and vocabulary. But now, I want to talk about something really important. Mindset. Your mindset about money makes a huge difference. A huge difference. If you think about money with a scarcity mindset, you'll always feel like there's not enough. You'll feel anxious and stressed. But if you think about money with an abundance mindset, you'll feel more positive and more in control. What's the difference? A scarcity mindset is when you focus on what you don't have. You think, I don't have enough money, I can't afford things, I'll never be able to save. It's all negative. And when you think like this, you make decisions based on fear. You might hoard money and never enjoy anything because you're so worried about not having enough. Or you might give up on saving entirely because you think it's impossible anyway.
An abundance mindset is different. It's when you focus on what you do have and what's possible. You think, I have enough, I can make good choices, I can improve my situation. It's more positive. And when you think like this, you make better decisions. You save money not because you're afraid, but because you're planning for good things. You spend money on things you value without guilt because you know you're also saving. It's balanced. Now, I'm not saying you should just think positive thoughts and magically money will appear. That's not realistic. What I'm saying is that your attitude affects your behavior. If you believe you can save money, you're more likely to actually do it. If you believe you can improve your financial situation, you'll take the steps to make it happen. I used to have a scarcity mindset. I really did. I grew up in a family that didn't have a lot of money, and I internalized this idea that there would never be enough. Even when I got a good job and started earning decent money, I still felt poor. I still felt like I couldn't afford things. It was in my head, you know? And this mindset made me bad with money in two opposite ways. Sometimes I would refuse to spend money on anything, even things I needed, because I was so afraid of running out. And other times I would spend recklessly because I thought, well, I'll never have enough anyway, so why bother trying to save? But then I learned about this idea of abundance mindset, and I tried to shift my thinking. I started saying to myself, I have enough. I earn enough. I can make good choices. And slowly, over time, my relationship with money changed. I started feeling more in control. I started making better decisions. I started saving consistently because I believed I could do it. And I started spending on things I valued without feeling guilty because I knew I was also taking care of my future. So I encourage you to think about your own mindset. What are your beliefs about money? Do you think you can save? Do you think you can improve your financial situation? If you have doubts, that's okay. Doubts are normal, but try to challenge them. Try to shift your thinking a little bit because your mindset really does matter. Another thing I want to talk about is the importance of celebrating progress. When you're trying to save money, it's easy to only focus on how far you still have to go. You look at your goal and you think, I'm only halfway there. I still have so much more to save, and that can feel discouraging. But what if you flipped it? What if you celebrated how far you've come? What if you acknowledged the progress you've made? If your goal is to save $2,000 and you've saved $1,000, that's amazing. You've saved $1,000. That's not a small thing. That's a real accomplishment. You should be proud of that.
I think we don't celebrate our financial wins enough. We don't give ourselves credit. We're always looking at what's next, what's more. But taking a moment to feel good about what you've achieved, that's important. It keeps you motivated. It reminds you that you're capable. So my advice? Set milestones along the way to your big goal. If you want to save $5,000, celebrate when you hit $1,000. Celebrate when you hit $2,500. Celebrate when you hit $4,000. Each milestone is progress. Each milestone is worth acknowledging. Maybe you don't throw a big party or anything, but you take a moment to feel proud. Maybe you tell a friend. Maybe you do something small to mark the occasion. Just something to say, hey, I did this. I'm doing well. I remember when I was saving for my Japan trip, I had milestones. Every time I saved another $500, I would mark it on a chart I had on my wall. And seeing that chart fill up felt so good, so good. It was visual proof that I was making progress. And when I finally reached my full goal, I felt like I had climbed a mountain. I felt so accomplished. Let's talk about automation for a minute because I mentioned it earlier, but I want to emphasize how powerful it is. Automation means setting things up so they happen automatically without you having to do anything. And when it comes to saving money, automation is your best friend. Your best friend. Here's why. Humans are not great at self-control. We're not. We have good intentions. We say, I'm going to save money this month. But then life happens. We're tired. We see something we want. We forget about our goal. And we don't save, or we save less than we planned. This happens to everyone. It's normal. But if saving is automated, you don't need self-control. The money is moved to savings before you have a chance to spend it. It's done. And then you adjust. You live on what's left. And honestly, you usually don't even notice. It's like the money was never there. So if your bank offers automatic transfers, set it up. Decide on an amount that makes sense for you and have it transferred to your savings account every time you get paid. Even if it's a small amount, it's worth it because consistency is what matters. Saving a little bit consistently is better than saving a large amount occasionally. I also automate other things, not just savings. I automate my bill payments so I never forget to pay a bill and get a late fee. I automate my retirement contributions if my job offers that. Automation just makes life easier. It removes the mental burden of having to remember and decide every time.
Now, let's talk about something that might seem contradictory. Sometimes you need to spend money. You do, and that's okay. Saving money doesn't mean never spending money. It doesn't mean depriving yourself of everything. That's not sustainable. If you try to save every single penny and never enjoy anything, you'll burn out, you'll give up, you'll rebel against your own budget. So it's important to have balance. It's important to spend money on things that truly matter to you, things that bring you joy, things that improve your life. For me, I love books. I really love books, and I spend money on books regularly. Some people might say, Emily, you could go to the library and get books for free. And yes, that's true. But I like owning books. I like having them on my shelf. I like being able to write notes in them. So I budget for books. I give myself permission to spend money on them without guilt. For you, it might be something else. Maybe it's your hobby. Maybe it's travel. Maybe it's going to concerts. Maybe it's nice coffee, even though I said earlier you should make your own. The point is, it's your money. You get to decide what's important to you. You get to decide what's worth spending on. The key is to be intentional about it. Spend money on what you value and cut back on what you don't value. I have a friend who spends a lot of money on clothes. She loves fashion. It's her thing. And for a while, she felt guilty about it because she felt like she should be saving more. But then she realized, this is what I love. This is what makes me happy. So she made a plan. She cut back on other things, like she stopped getting expensive haircuts and she started cooking at home more. And she used that saved money for clothes. And now she doesn't feel guilty. She feels good because she's spending money on what she loves and saving in other areas. That's balance. That's being intentional. And that's completely okay. Let's talk about a really practical topic now. How do you talk about saving money with other people? This can be tricky. Money is a sensitive subject for a lot of people. It's personal, it's private. But sometimes you need to talk about it. Maybe you're in a relationship and you need to discuss finances with your partner. Maybe you're trying to plan a trip with friends and you need to talk about budget. Maybe you're living with roommates and you need to discuss shared expenses. How do you bring it up? First of all, be honest and direct. Don't dance around the topic. Just say it. For example, if you're planning a trip with friends and you're worried about cost, you could say, hey guys, I'm really excited about this trip, but I need to be honest. I'm on a tight budget right now. Can we look for affordable options for accommodation and activities? Most people will appreciate your honesty. And like I said before, they're probably thinking the same thing, but we're afraid to say it.
If you're in a relationship, talking about money is really important. Really important. Money is one of the biggest sources of conflict in relationships, so you need to be open about it. You need to discuss your goals, your concerns, your habits. You might say to your partner, I think we should talk about our finances. I want to make sure we're on the same page about saving and spending. Can we sit down and make a budget together? And if you're uncomfortable talking about money, that's okay. A lot of people are, but it's a skill you can develop. The more you do it, the easier it gets. Start small. Maybe just mention to a friend that you're trying to save money. See how they react. Usually it goes fine. Usually people are supportive. I used to be really uncomfortable talking about money. Really uncomfortable. I felt like it was rude to mention it. But I've learned that being open about money actually helps. It takes the pressure off. It makes things clear. And it helps you and the people around you make better decisions together. Okay, so let's talk about some common mistakes people make when trying to save money, because learning from mistakes is helpful, right? One big mistake is setting unrealistic goals. Some people decide, I'm going to save half my income. And if they're earning a lot and living cheaply, maybe that's possible. But for most people, saving half your income is not realistic. And when you set an unrealistic goal and then fail to meet it, you feel discouraged. You feel like a failure, and you might give up entirely. So it's better to set a modest goal that you can actually achieve. Even if it's just saving 5% of your income, that's something. That's progress. And once you meet that goal consistently for a few months, you can increase it. Another mistake is not having a plan. Some people just vaguely decide they want to save money, but they don't have any specific plan for how to do it. And without a plan, it's really hard to follow through. So make a plan. Decide exactly how much you want to save and when. Decide where you're going to cut expenses. Write it down. Make it concrete. Another mistake is giving up after a setback. Let's say you're doing well with saving, and then one month something unexpected happens. Your car breaks down and you have to use your savings to pay for the repair. Or you have a moment of weakness and you buy something expensive that you didn't need. And then you feel bad and you think, well, I've ruined it. I failed. Might as well give up. No, don't give up. Setbacks happen. They're normal. They're part of life. The important thing is to keep going. Start again. Get back on track. Don't let one mistake derail all your progress.
I've had so many setbacks with money. So many. Times when I spent money I shouldn't have. Times when unexpected expenses wiped out my savings. But I didn't give up. I just started again. And over time, the general trend has been positive. I'm in a much better financial position now than I was 5 years ago, even though there have been ups and downs along the way. Another mistake is focusing only on saving and ignoring debt. If you have debt, especially high-interest debt like credit card debt, you need to prioritize paying that off, because the interest you're paying on the debt is probably more than the interest you're earning on your savings, so you're actually losing money. It's better to pay off the debt first and then focus on building savings. Or you could do both, pay off debt and save a little bit, but the debt should be the priority. And one more mistake is not adjusting your plan. Life changes. Your income might change, your expenses might change, your goals might change, so your savings plan needs to change too. Don't just make a plan once and then never look at it again. Review it regularly. Maybe every few months, sit down and look at your finances. Are you on track? Do you need to adjust anything? Being flexible and adapting your plan is important. All right, let's talk about different types of savings, because not all savings are the same. There are different purposes for saving, and it's helpful to think about them separately. First, there's emergency savings. This is money for unexpected problems. Medical emergencies, car repairs, job loss, things like that. Financial experts usually recommend having 3 to 6 months of expenses saved for emergencies. That's a lot of money. If your monthly expenses are $2,000, 6 months would be $12,000. That's a big goal. But even if you can't save that much, having something is better than nothing. Even $1,000 can help in an emergency. Then there's short-term savings. This is money for things you want to buy or do in the near future, usually within a year or two. Maybe you want to buy a new phone. Maybe you want to take a vacation. Maybe you want to buy furniture. You save up for these things. Short-term savings usually stay in a regular savings account where you can access the money easily. There's also long-term savings. This is money for things in the more distant future. Maybe you want to buy a house someday. Maybe you want to start a business. These goals are years away, so you have more time to save. Long-term savings might go into investments like stocks or bonds, where the money can grow more than in a regular savings account, but that's a more advanced topic.
And then there's retirement savings. This is money for when you stop working. As I mentioned earlier, when you retire, you need money to live on. Many jobs offer retirement plans where you can save money from your paycheck automatically, and sometimes the employer adds money too. That's great if you have access to it. Take advantage of it. Even if you're young and retirement feels far away, starting early makes a huge difference because of something called compound interest, where your money grows over time. I wish I had started saving for retirement earlier. I really do. I didn't start until I was in my 30s, and I know that if I had started in my 20s, I would have so much more saved by now. So if you're young and listening to this, please start saving for retirement now, even a tiny amount. You'll thank yourself later. Having different categories for your savings can be helpful. Some people even have separate savings accounts for different goals. One account for emergencies, one for vacation, one for a new car, whatever. That way you can see your progress toward each goal separately, and it helps you not mix up the money. You know that the money in your emergency account is only for emergencies, not for buying a new TV. Let me tell you a quick story about emergency savings. A few years ago, my friend lost his job. It was completely unexpected. The company he worked for went out of business suddenly, and he was panicked. How was he going to pay rent? How was he going to buy food? But luckily, he had been saving for emergencies. He had about 4 months of expenses saved, and that money kept him afloat while he looked for a new job. It took him 3 months to find a new position, 3 long, stressful months, but he made it through without going into debt, without having to borrow money from family, because he had those savings. And after that experience, he told me, "Emily, I will never not have emergency savings again. That money saved me." That story really stuck with me. It showed me how important emergency savings are, because emergencies happen, they really do. And when they happen, having money saved makes such a huge difference. Now, let's talk about some tools and resources that can help you save money, because you don't have to do this all alone. There are lots of things out there to help you. First, budgeting apps. There are many apps designed to help you track your spending and manage your budget. Some popular ones are Mint, YNAB, which stands for You Need a Budget, and EveryDollar. These apps connect to your bank account and automatically track your spending. They categorize your expenses, show you graphs and charts, and help you see where your money is going. They can be really helpful, especially if you don't like tracking manually. Some are free, some cost a small monthly fee. Then there are savings apps. These are apps specifically designed to help you save. Some of them round up your purchases to the nearest dollar and save the difference. For example, if you buy something for $3.50, the app rounds it up to $4 and saves the 50 cents. It's a sneaky way to save without really noticing. Other savings apps analyze your spending and automatically save money when they detect you can afford it. There are also websites and tools for comparing prices. Before you buy something, you can search online to see if you can find it cheaper somewhere else. Websites like Google Shopping let you compare prices from different stores. This is especially useful for expensive items. And don't forget about old-fashioned tools like spreadsheets. You can make a simple spreadsheet to track your income, expenses, and savings. It doesn't have to be fancy, just something to keep yourself organized. I use a spreadsheet, and I like it because I can customize it exactly how I want. Another resource is financial education. There are so many free resources online to learn about money. Websites, videos, podcasts, like this one. The more you learn about personal finance, the better decisions you'll make. So I encourage you to keep learning. Read articles, watch videos, listen to podcasts. Educate yourself. Knowledge is power, especially when it comes to money. You can also talk to a financial advisor if you want professional help. Financial advisors are people who are trained to help with money management. They can look at your situation and give you personalized advice. Some financial advisors are free, especially if you use services at your bank. Others charge a fee. If you're feeling really overwhelmed with your finances, talking to an advisor might be worth it. Okay, let's bring this all together. We've covered so much today, so much, and I hope you're feeling more confident about saving money and about talking about money in English, because that's what this is all about. Not just learning vocabulary, but actually being able to use English in real-life situations. So, what are the key takeaways? What are the most important things to remember? First, saving money is important. It gives you security, freedom, and options. Even small amounts of savings make a difference. Second, you need a plan. Decide how much you want to save and make a specific plan for how you'll do it. Pay yourself first, track your spending, set goals. Third, be intentional about spending. Spend money on what truly matters to you and cut back on what doesn't. Don't waste money on things you don't value. Fourth, use tools and strategies to help you. Automate your savings, use apps if they help, educate yourself about money. Fifth, be patient with yourself. Saving money takes time. You won't see results overnight, but if you're consistent, the results will come. Don't give up after setbacks. Keep going. Sixth, take care of your emotional relationship with money. Your mindset matters. Believe that you can improve your financial situation. Celebrate your progress. Don't let money stress consume you. And seventh, talk about money. Be open about it with the people in your life. It's okay to discuss financial concerns and goals. In fact, it's healthy. You know, as we come to the end of this episode, I'm thinking about my own journey with money. I've made mistakes, a lot of them. I've spent money I shouldn't have spent. I failed to save when I should have saved. I've been stressed about money. I felt anxious and worried and guilty. But I've also learned so much, and I've gotten better. Slowly but surely, I've gotten better at managing money. And if I can do it, you can too. You really can. Saving money isn't about being perfect. It's not about never making mistakes. It's about making progress. It's about learning and growing. It's about taking small steps every day toward a better financial future. And those small steps add up. They really do. I want to leave you with one final thought. Money is a tool. It's not the goal. The goal is to live a good life. The goal is to be happy, to be healthy, to have meaningful relationships, to do things you enjoy. Money helps with that. Having savings gives you peace of mind. It gives you the freedom to make choices. But money itself isn't what matters most. Don't forget that. Don't get so focused on saving money that you forget to actually live your life. So save money, yes. Be smart about your finances, yes. But also enjoy your life. Spend money on things that bring you joy. Share experiences with people you love. Be generous when you can. Find balance. That's the secret. Balance. And remember, learning to talk about money in English is a skill. And like any skill, you get better with practice. So practice. Use the phrases we talked about today. Have conversations about money. It might feel awkward at first,
but it gets easier, I promise. I'd love to hear from you. What are your biggest challenges with saving money? What strategies have worked for you? Do you have any tips to share with other listeners? Leave a comment below and let's learn from each other. And if you're comfortable, tell us about your savings goals. What are you saving for? Sometimes sharing your goals with others helps you stay accountable. And please, if you found this episode helpful, like and subscribe to English Club for more English learning podcasts. Your support really helps us keep creating content for you. Thank you so much for listening today. Thank you for spending this time with me. I really appreciate it.
I hope this episode has given you both English skills and practical money skills. Use what you learned. Take action. Even one small change can make a difference. Maybe you'll start tracking your spending this week. Maybe you'll set up an automatic transfer to savings. Maybe you'll just think more carefully before your next purchase. Whatever it is, do something. Take a step. You've got this. See you in the next episode. Keep practicing your English, and remember, you're doing great. And hey, take care of your finances. Your future self will thank you. Bye for now.